Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics, and today I happened to go to my local comic book shop, Miss Legends and Heroes, on the weekend past, and I noticed a bunch of books that I hadn't seen before in that area. He had picked up a bunch of Legion of Superheroes, and yes, I know I've done Legion videos before, but this isn't a lesson one as much as an acquisition video because it turns out that I hadn't seen these books, so I decided to go through and I picked up about 7 or 8 books that I didn't have. Coupled with a couple of other ones that I was just about to read, I thought I'd just show you what my weekend reading was like, and they all happen to be mostly Legion of Superheroes related books. First off, I picked this up. The first few books were not from the comic store. I picked them up on some of my earlier searches. For example, the search that I did with the $50 challenge at Allen, for example. Some of them are leftovers from that because I hadn't got around to reading yet. So, without further ado, let us begin. This here is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes 237. It's got a great Colossal Boy Superboy cover, as well as Princess Projectra, and I believe that's Starboy in the back. In this issue, you they had to go and fight a bunch of guys who were trying to kill R.J. Brand, and in order to stop it, they had to go and get a bunch of different things to stop this terrorist from killing him. Apparently, if a certain thing happened, this ball would explode, killing them both. And he was going to do that if they didn't go get the things he wanted. So there we go. Superboy and the Legion 237. Here is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes 239. The question on the cover is: alone against his comrades, which Legionnaire stands accused of murder most foul? Well, not to spoil a book that's over 40 years old, but it was Ultra Boy, who had returned to his home planet of Rimbor and saw an ex girlfriend, and somehow that ex girlfriend ended up dead, and yada, yada, yada. He gets cleared, but the question becomes who killed her, and that is not resolved by the end of this book and continues on to the next few books in the series. Now, for something completely different, not quite, but during the 70s, Karate Kid went back on his own to prove to Princess Projectra's dad that he was a worthy candidate for marriage to his daughter. He went back in the 20th century in the mid 70s to make his life, so to speak, and to show that he was a valid consort in this case. So what I have next is a couple of issues of Karate Kid from that series that ran from 76, late 76 to 78. This was one of the DC explosion titles that ended up dying in the implosion. This one is Karate Kid 7. It at the end of this book, he okay, in this book he fights this guy on the front with this guy uses a bunch of gyroscopes to attack and uses the speed created by centrifugal force to in order to be have powers and stuff, but he doesn't succeed obviously because Karate Kid is able to defeat him in the end, of course, and move on to the others. But at the end of this book is a cameo of the first appearance of Pulsar, which actually became a hero that Karate Kid fought again in the past in a Brave and the Bold issue, Brave and the Bold 198, with Batman a few years later. Right here is the next issue, and this issue 8 is the first full appearance of Pulsar, who's on the cover. Pulsar basically becomes he has this stick that becomes his weapon, as you can see here on the cover, and he can use it to instantly change into his super bad costume and use it as a weapon to kill people. What I particularly liked about this issue was the cover has very nice. I love the contrast. You've got the black on the sides and then the color in the middle, just at where Karate Kid is going and attacking Pulsar. I think it's one of the best covers I've seen in a while for with regards to a '70s cover, and so therefore from DC anyway. So therefore, I thought it was a good buy. Now we're going to get to the books that I bought at the store the other day. They're all from Volume 3 of the Legion, which was the Baxter series that started in 1984 when the original Volume 2, as it's known as, even though it really was the first ongoing. When Volume 2 turned into Tales of the Legion, they brought this Baxter series in that was only available at comic stores at the time, wasn't available as a newsstand. So, without further ado, I will get to them. This is issue 24, where they finally figure out who Censor Girl is. This was a good run for about 10 issues or so in the Legion, because the Censor Girl, who was Queen Projectra, returning to the Legion, you know, for 10 issues, they didn't exactly know who she was. And based on her powers of illusion, she was able to convince other people that she had different types of powers. And so they were trying to guess who exactly it was for a while. And here we have issue 26, where the Legion ends up starting a fight against the new Fatal Five, which had two members of the original Fatal Five, the Persuader and the Emerald Empress, coupled with three other members. It turns out that the three other members, however, one of them was a member of the Legion Academy, and she never really turned against the Fatal Five. She was just upset that she was not accepted when the last time the Legion accepted new members, and decided to show how well she was in this one, and she ends up dying. This is issue 27, which is the next issue, and it is the end of the fight against the Fatal Five. This is the true fight where they understand and realize, you know, like that it is Projectra, because it's Projectra as Censor Girl who, in the end, really does the trick and defeats the Empress after she beats the crap out of the Persuader, and ends up fighting the Emerald Empress right to the end. And honestly, those are 5 pages of really interesting fights. For those that remember Projectra as being a bit weak, not being one of the stronger Legionnaires in both powers and resolve, it's amazing the fact that she lost Karate Kid, how much more powerful she has become, especially when you read what has happened and how she managed to enhance her powers. And here we have issue 28. In this, Starboy ends up being drafted by his home planet to stay and become the homegrown hero again, which he hasn't been in years since he left to go join the Legion. And apparently, under the laws, they're allowed to do that. So Starboy is forced to leave the Legion and Dream Girl behind. Starboy has always been the bad luck member of the Legion, let me tell you. That guy has had more bad luck things happen to him. I've discussed that in an earlier video, but this continues to show that the writers have it in him for him. Especially if you know his current history, where he has gone back in time to the 21st century and has joined the Justice Society, and his schizophrenia kicks in because he's no longer getting the drugs from the 31st century that completely keep it under control. It adds even more interesting parts to the story of Tom Calor, and makes him actually one of the most interesting Legionnaires there ever was. Now, speaking of Projectra and Karate Kid, this here is Legion Superheroes 31, and it is an untold story of the three members who joined at the same time in Adventure 346 with Nemesis Kid, who, ended up being a traitor. So you get to see a very rare story that actually has Pharaoh Lad alive and involved in a adventure with the Legion that I found really good. And this is Censor Lad, a Censor Girl telling the story to Jacques Faucard, the Invisible Kid, uh, sort of using it as a way to feel better because both of them had gone to visit the statues of the dead Legionnaires, and she to see her husband, and Jacques, who has always felt an affinity for Lyle Norg. So anyway, this of all the books that are here, this is the one I recommend you read the most. I have to say I enjoyed this one the most because it brought me back to the Adventure Comics era of Legion, which is probably my favorite period, the mission was much simpler compared to what they're doing then, because it bing bing bang, it's done in a book, and that's the way I used to love my stories. Now the last three I'm going to show you are the last three issues of that volume. It is parts 2 through 4 of the Magic Wars, issue 61, issue 62, and this is the final issue of volume 3, issue 63. That is the White Witch standing on the alone at the front with this is Censor Girl standing at the front. Sorry, the White Witch is the hero of the day, but Censor Girl is the one that makes the roundup at the end. This is basically the last time we ever see this actual Legion until 2010, because they start rebooting all the other stuff. You've got the Legion, the Giffen era that comes next, that halfway through Crisis, all the changes from Crisis have finally kicked through enough that although it's affected this run, it really affects the next one, because the next run is the one where Cosmic Boy has no powers, and they have to start the Legion anew again because the Legion has been broken up at this point. But the whole point of the Magic Wars was technology didn't work anymore. Magic had taken the place of science. It was a huge demon-like creature who had come out of the Sorcerer's Planet and did this across the universe. Colu was an absolute mess. Earth was an absolute mess. And when the Legionnaires finally defeat the creature, the universe, the galaxy, whatever you want to call it, had to do a lot of fixing. And that's what said they break up the Legion. That's off screen. It's not in this issue. But they break up the Legion. It leads to the next series that was primarily written by Keith Giffen. This one here, Giffen did some of the plotting and did the preliminary pencils for this story. But Levitz, this was the last book that Paul Levitz worked on for the Legion until the Legion came back in Action Comics 858. And that was the original Legion that we're all used to. Other writers did the Legion series with the 3-boot and as I said, Giffen was in charge of the volume 4, which ran from 89 to 94. Was it 94 or was it to 97? It was definitely from 89 on, as this one here is cover dated August 89. So I think it was they had a couple months off before. The next one was the 5 years later Legion, as I said, and where the Dominators took over Earth, and eventually the Earth gets destroyed, and it's just the whole and then gets rebooted at the end. It's a real mess, which if as long as you follow each issue, you can sort of follow the story, but to try and talk about without the books in front of you can be very confusing to especially someone who's never read it before. Anyways, those were the recent Legion pickups I made, and I've read them all, and I really enjoyed them all. because the volume 3 kind of puts the end to the 1958 Legion as we know it, the original Legion. It was one heck of a run at that point, and it makes me sad sometimes to know that got turned around, because it wasn't just that I enjoyed the story so much; it just lasted for so long. 1958 to 1989 is no short period of time, as everybody's well. It's certainly not in comic books. I mean, when you've got comics that are being canceled after 6 issues all the time, even with them being in different series, is the fact that it went almost unbroken with a small 8 month break in 1971, sorry, in 1972, between the Action Comics and when they returned back in very early 1973 in the Superboy run. The Legion had pretty much been printed for every month from 1963 on. So, and even between 58 and 63, they were probably never 2 months without appearing in the Action, Adventure, Jimmy Olsen, or Superman at that period. So they made many appearances. Anyway, I hope you like this. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment below. I'd like a comment to see what your favorite Legionnaire is. That's one thing that nobody has put in the comments so far on any of my Legion videos. There's been, oh, I like the Legion, oh, I like this, da, da, da. But no one has come out to say this was my favorite story, this was my favorite character. So go ahead and leave a comment below. I'd like to hear about it. If you have particular parts of the Legion you'd like to see in a video, go ahead. I'm not going to stop doing Legion videos. I'm not going to stop doing videos, period. My next one may surprise you, considering all the other stuff that I've covered. But I I have topics forever. So quite simply, I'm going to keep going because I love comics. My name is Matt, and I hope you like comics too.